The views expressed are not necessarily those of KSCJ and Powell Broadcasting Company. This program is not intended to replace the advice of doctors or other clinical providers. Consult with your practitioner to ensure the proper course of action for you.
Welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well on AM 1360, FM 94.9 KSCJ. This program is dedicated to your mental health wellness and brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency. Here's your host, Art Silva.
Good morning, Siouxland. I'm Art Silva, and welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well. This show is dedicated to your mental wellness and how you can help yourself navigate the daily highway of life. We hope to educate you and motivate you to help improve your mental wellness. Our show is brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency serving the Siouxland community. Our topic today is caregivers, mental wellness, and living with dementia. Joining me today is Brenda Geisinger, COO of Boys and Girls Home and Family Services. If you don't know what COO means, it's Chief Operating Officer. So I just thought I'd do that. Good morning, Brenda, and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Okay, let's start off, Brenda. You've been with us all through the series. We're on a year now of doing this show.
I know.
And we haven't really spent much time talking about you and your background and what you do. So would you share that with us a little bit, please?
Sure. I've been with the agency for 32 years. My background is in social work. I have a master's in social work, and I started with the agency doing direct care with kids and just continued my career.
Well, you do an excellent job, and it shows in our organization. You have the lion's share of work at Boys and Girls Home and Family Services, and probably the most employees working underneath you. So it's great. It shows in not only what you do, but the spirit you carry through the organization. So we're very fortunate to have you, as are those children.
Well, it's a team effort. We all have our roles, and we all pull together.
That's the truth. Well, today, our topic is caregivers' mental health, living with dementia. So first of all, let's frame our topic. You know, an estimated 43.5 million Americans act as family caregivers, providing care to a spouse or family member who's elderly and or disabled by physical or mental illness. Chronic stress impairs immune function and taxes the brain and body in a myriad of ways, worsening pre-existing health conditions, heightening the risk of mental health disorders and other stress-related diseases that hasten aging. Caregiving may even lead to an earlier death. The 5-year-long Caregiver Health Effects Study found that elderly spousal caregivers who are experiencing mental or emotional strain have an 63% increased risk of dying compared to non-caregivers of the same age. So, caregivers could really be the poster child for chronic stress. So, Brenda, can you help us differentiate between acute stress and chronic stress?
Acute stress tends to be, at the moment, something impactful is happening and you're really overwhelmed, but it may subside after a while. Whereas chronic stress is just this ongoing, every day, every moment. It just lingers with you. It can be due to your job or a family situation, or it can be because you're a caregiver and you're just exhausted, but every day, throughout the day, you're just ongoing. And then when you go to sleep, you don't sleep well because your body isn't resting, your mind isn't letting it go, and it just lingers with you.
When can a person start to determine between acute stress and chronic stress? Is there a timetable when if something doesn't go away, you might want to get help?
I don't know if there's a set timetable. It's different for every person. But when you know, I just can't shake this. I'm constantly exhausted. I'm overwhelmed. I am short on my temper or I'm moody. You may say, time out. I need to get some help here and talk to someone or find some resources for myself. And even with acute stress, you may have that. But chronic stress just goes on, and it just doesn't seem to alleviate itself.
So at this time of year, with the holiday season and the pressures that come along with everyday normal life, we could see a lot of acute stress out there, but it should go away. And maybe that's a good reason to get back into some good mental wellness programs starting in January to combat any effects from the holiday season. But it's a tough time of year. And when you think about caregivers who are constantly in some type of stress mode, we talked about on the show previously having a routine. And you mentioned just now the sleep routine. And with caregivers, that's probably the number one thing that's upset is the sleep routine.
Absolutely. Your body needs those good hours of sleep. And if it's not there, your body just isn't resting and healing and doing what it needs to do to rejuvenate for the next day. And so having that routine and knowing you need a moment for yourself, especially when you're a caregiver, can be difficult to find, but you have to find those moments.
I'm Silva, and you're listening to When Things Aren't Going Well. And with me today from Family Services is Brenda Geisinger, and we are discussing caregivers and mental wellness. We're talking acute stress, and we're talking about chronic stress. And, caregivers we have dementia, but there's a lot of other ways caregivers come into play. Sometimes it can be for a short period of time. It could be a broken bone or a surgery that gets better.
Yes.
But when it goes on and on for a while, it changes a lot of routines that the caregivers providing help and service for. So,
I think a part of that
your
also.
thoughts.
I think a part of that also is when you're a caregiver for someone who has a chronic illness. And that illness, isn't going to go away. It just becomes exhausting. And when you just maybe think you have the routine down, things are going okay, then all of a sudden things start going bad again. And you have to readjust. And there just doesn't seem to be an end in sight. And the caregiver may feel like, I can't do this, or they might get angry at the person they're taking care of, I'm just so exhausted, why can't you give me a break? And it's really taking those moments to breathe and realizing you do love this person and it's going to be okay, we just have to get through this. But it's really allowing yourself to feel those feelings.
Well, we talk about chronic stress, but the news about caregivers' health isn't all bad. In surveys, a majority of caregivers report experiencing many positive aspects of caregiving, including personal growth, increased meaning and purpose in one's life, a sense of giving back to someone who has cared for them, and the satisfaction of knowing that their loved one is receiving excellent care. So there's a good side to this also, but it's at a price. And it's really, if you want to be able to continue this, what can we offer some of our caregivers? What can they do to help themselves through these tough times?
I think it's also taking a moment to reflect on that relationship and the beauty that it offers you. My grandma Ann had Alzheimer's, and I learned things about her in the ending of her life that I would have never known. She was sharing stories with me, and I just still to this day really treasure that. And it's just taking a moment to say, I am connecting with this person in a different way, but it's also very beautiful.
I'll tell you, with having done some caregiving on my own, I think the number one thing that you can do is the patience and try to provide as much time as you can, because you never know when the person you're caring for may feel like talking or sharing something with you. So there's a lot of patience that goes into this, but you really got to look after yourself. And then sometimes you find out that the patient you're caring for is more concerned about your well-being.
Absolutely, yes.
And then that kind of complicates who's taking care of who here.
Yes.
So it's a beautiful thing. It's about caring and it's about love. And I think when you put those things together, it's a great, great combination.
And I think you touch on something, Art. It's the caregiver has that sense of responsibility, but the person being cared for also may feel guilty. Here I am struggling and this person is giving all their time and energy to me. And having a discussion about that can be very healing and very healthy, and finding new roles for each other.
We want to give hope to all the caregivers out there for the fabulous job that they do in a tough period of life. And you can always kind of hope that, I hope somebody might do this for me someday. And see where that goes. But I want to get back to something you mentioned earlier, and that's visiting with older people. You talked about your grandmother. You can learn so much from visiting with older people. They're walking history books. And I got to tell you, if you want to do something neat for Christmas, go visit an elderly person in a nursing home or give them a call. They are just fantastic people to be around. You learn so much, especially this generation we have right now.
And it means so much to them. They're connecting with someone and they're sharing their life with you, and they just light up, and it just really fills your joy.
Well, we're coming up on our break, so continue your morning chill. Look at the beautiful snow outside. We'll be right back with more When Things Aren't Going Well right here on KSCJ.
Let's face it, that happens to all of us. However, the pandemic has compounded all of our lives and activities. Even the simplest tasks seem harder. Hi, I'm Brenda Geisinger, the Chief Operating Officer at the Boys and Girls Home and Family Services. Family Services is a United Way partner agency serving children and families of our community, and we're here to help. If you'd like to learn more about Family Services, please contact us via email, website, Facebook, or phone Mary Pickens. At Family Services, we change lives.
Welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well on KSCJ. Here's Art Silva.
Welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well. I'm Art Silva along with Brenda Geisinger from Family Services. And so let's continue our discussion on caregivers and mental wellness. Let's discuss caregivers for persons suffering from dementia. We'll just use this malady as an example, and we'll specifically talk about the do's and don'ts. So with that, Brenda, let's talk about the do's and don'ts with someone suffering and living with dementia. Agree and never argue.
Well, for my own memory's sake, I kind of put it into three categories, and then I do the word acronym. So I do ADD, which is agree, distract, and divert. So someone who may be struggling with a dementia, they may say something that just seems way out there, just not correct. They might say the sky is green, for example. In their world, that's what it is. And there's no need to argue, just agree with them and have the conversation keep going, or don't try to correct them, because then that causes anxiety, frustration, more confusion, and that isn't really what the conversation is. So you just need to agree with them. If it starts becoming combative or argumentative, then you might want to distract the person and find something else they might want to do. How about we go for a walk right now, or let's go over here into the kitchen and maybe start baking together. And the other one is to divert their attention. They might get confused or unsettled, or their routine is off focus. And again, it's diverting them to something and distracting them. So I like to call that one the ADD, where you agree with them, you distract them, or you divert their attention and kind of keep things moving along if it's becoming a struggle.
That's a great way to remember that ADD, okay, folks? So,
and then the next one would be DEAR.
Okay.
And so if someone is taking care of someone with dementia and you want them to do something, give them a directive. And it's very simple, 1 step, 2 step. Don't overwhelm them, or don't assume they remember how to do it. Treat them like they're 2 years old. Today we're going to read your mail. How about you take the envelope? How about you open the envelope, and step by step walk them through that, and then encourage them while they're doing that. You're doing a really great job. How does that feel? What are you looking at? And keep using those positive affirmations. And then ask them if they're struggling with a decision. Don't ask open-ended questions, but make it simple choice questions. Do you want to wear the white shirt or the red shirt? Do you want to have potatoes or French fries? Make the choices easy, and they know it's 1 or 2, and help them along with those choices. And then the last one is reinforce. When they're doing something well, keep them going. So I like to call that around activities the DEAR. You do something with them, you encourage them, ask them, choice questions, and then also reinforce what they're doing all the time.
All of this in a very positive way.
Yes.
And it's a nice process to follow. And I'm sure, like we talk about routine all the time, the consistent application of what you just really helps. Don't try something new and stay with it, because otherwise you'll confuse them more.
Right.
One thing I was told was don't ever say can't.
Right.
That's one word you don't use is can't.
And the last one is the 3 R's. You constantly, want to reassure them, And don't ask them to remember something. Have them just reminisce, talk about their life. They may not remember something that happened 45 seconds ago or 45 minutes ago, but they may remember something that happened 45 years ago. And just let them tell their story. It's okay. And a lot of times they may like to do the simple things. I had a friend, they love to have their nails painted. And so we would have a manicure day, and they felt like they were 5 years old. And then we would start coloring afterwards in coloring books. But it was really a very connecting moment. So doing the 3 R's of letting them reminisce about their life and then reassuring them all the time, regardless of what's going on, and just constantly repeat things, doing that routine and getting them in a set rhythm.
One thing also that I remember is don't correct.
Absolutely. Just let them be, and that's okay. And that goes along with that agree thing, whatever they're saying.
I love it what you said it, Brenda, because we have to get into their space. They may see things that we don't see, but it's still their reality.
That's right.
And as soon as we can get to that level, it makes it an awful lot easier to understand what you're trying to accomplish and exactly what you're working with. The downside of that, I find, is if you're making progress as a caregiver, you always hope, and it's not the case, that the patient is getting better. So you've got to find a way to keep your spirits up. Find that. Where do you get that kind of caregiver support? Where would you look for that?
I think it helps to talk and then also recognize you're going through a grieving process. The person you knew is changing, and you have to define what is the new relationship going to be. And for me, like I mentioned earlier with my grandmother, is finding new things about them. It was a new journey, and it's okay. I had a friend, their father had dementia and Alzheimer's, and they really loved animals. So she decided to buy them stuffed dogs, and they would take the stuffed dogs for a walk. But it was a way to connect with their past relationship and then building a new relationship together. And that's really, it's a journey, but it's also a grieving process. You're losing someone as you knew them, and it's time to get them to know them again and be patient with that.
You always hope that you're making improvements and that you're helping. And you know what? You are.
Absolutely.
You're making every day the best that it can. It may not come to the outcome you'd like, but it's all about one day at a time. I know that's a cliche, but it couldn't be more true. Every day is just a good day, or make it the best day you can for that individual.
And as a caregiver, finding that little special moment you had during the day or during that hour, if they remember your name, you just feel like, oh my goodness, they remembered my name today. And there may be times where they don't remember your name, but they remember your face, and they remember the love you're giving them and the support. And just hanging on to those moments can make all the difference.
And of course, we notice their personality changes too. And I think that's all part of the understanding of what they're looking at, the reality of their situation. And it's okay. It's okay for days when they may be short with you. It's okay when days they just don't want to have you around, or you're an inconvenience. Don't take that personally. They have really tough days that they don't share everything.
Right.
I find that as a caregiver, you're not going to hear everything from them. So you kind of have to just get into that routine and stick with it.
I think the other thing that's really important as a caregiver, it's okay to say, I can't do this anymore, and ask for assistance for others to come into the home, or you have to look for another option for where they can live so they can be taken care of. It's about your safety and about the person you're taking care of, their safety as well. So at some point you may have to say, this isn't healthy for us anymore, and that's okay. You have to be okay with those decisions.
Well, before we close our show off, there are some very positive aspects to caregiving. Strengthening relationship with the individual. The caregiver incorporates purpose and personal growth in the overall life experience. And the caregiver tends to have better mental health once they realize some of the things that they're accomplishing. Sometimes you lose that in the cloud of everything, but it's really good. We're coming up on the end of our show for this week, and we want to leave you with a little humor for your mental wellness. It's good for the soul. So, here we go. He was a guitarist, and he played many, many gigs. and he was recently asked by a funeral director to play at a graveside service for a homeless man. He had no family or friends, so the service was to be at the Pauper Cemetery in the back country. Well, the guitarist was not familiar with the back country, so he just started driving around, and he saw a group of men around the hole digging. He looked in, and he said, well, this must be the spot. So he went. He felt badly. He apologized to the men for being late. I went to the side of the grave and looked down, and the vault lid was already in place, so I didn't know what else to do, so I started to play. The workers put down their lunches and began to gather around. I played my heart out and soul for this man with no family and friends. I played like I'd never played before for this homeless man. And as I played Amazing Grace, the workers began to weep. They wept. I wept. We all wept together. When I finished, I packed up my guitar and I started for my car. Though my head was hung low, my heart was full. As I opened the door to my car, I heard one of the workers say, I've never seen something like that before. I've been putting in septic tanks for 20 years. Well, I'll leave you with that. And I want to thank you, Brenda, for joining us today and sharing your expertise. Also, thanks to our listening audience. A shout out to Fitz Grant and the Sanford Center. Support their Rudy Navarrete Taco Bonanza fundraiser. It's today starting at noon on 6000 Morningside Avenue, the Bible School Gym. Tickets are only $10 for a good cause. Also, a major shout out to Corey Westra. And a great job for the recent tournament we had in town. And finally, a shout out to all the caregivers. Peace be with you this Christmas. We'll be back next Saturday morning at 7 right here on 1360 AM, 94.9 FM KSCJ, and we'll distribute our Family Services Christmas mental wellness gifts for the Siouxland community. Don't forget to do your homework this week. Go out and have a good laugh. It's good for the soul. Have a great week, and may the sun shine on you.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Happy trails to you till we meet again.
For more information on the services provided by Boys and Girls Home and Family Services, see them online at boysandgirlshomeiowa.org. Or you can call 712-293-4700 to get more information about family services, residential treatment, the Opportunity School, the Siouxland Family Center, and more. At Boys and Girls Home and Family Services, we change lives.